All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Game and Compute. I haven't been posting in a while, and it's mainly because I haven't really found a lot of topics where I've felt like it would be beneficial for people. So I don't know, like I've been doing a lot, but today I want to talk about jobs, job security, what it's like to have remote work, as well as kind of what we're seeing with the inflation. And I've kind of shut myself off to a lot of the content that I was following, like Meet Kevin and Graham Stephan. Nothing negative about them, but it's just I've just not been wanting to keep up with it, mainly because I just wasn't too interested. One thing that I'm noticing people are gravitating towards as far as content is about credit score building, increasing credit scores. I'm thinking the reason why is because a lot of people need a good credit score. The market for brand new cars or moving to a new house, things like that, simply just transportation and housing require a certain decent credit score, or even renting a car to be able to afford what you need. So to be able to apply for what you need, or rent what you need, or buy what you need, you have to have that credit score near a 650 to be even considered, right? But we're not talking about credit scores too much right now. I just want to put that into the mix because it is part of like the main scheme of things that's kind of going on. Now, like I mentioned, I've been kind of cut off from I purposely cut myself off from a lot of the content I was waking up and listening to. I was like waking up listening to Meet Kevin. He's on, I guess, East Coast time. He would start broadcasting live about the stock market, and he would just go when market was open, and he would be like looking at a lot of the different trends and everything every day. And I liked it because, I learned a lot from it. Just absorbing like the information he was saying. After a while, it started making a lot more sense to me because I would start to look up stuff I didn't know. And, like I've mentioned before, I've been on this like finance journey, during the Rona. I was like, well, that's one thing with all the schooling I went through. I've got a master's degree, and then another 3 additional years of grad school after that, including like 1.5 practicums, and then like 6 years of work in the field that I'm in. And so I've been 6 years. Dude, I forgot if I just passed 5 or 6 years. December 20th is my work anniversary of employment, full-time employment date with the company I've been at since I finished my practicums. I've been at 2 branches total, 3 branches if you count my first practicum, but all within the same company. But I'm recording this because I'm starting to think about and having to consider moving jobs, really. And the reason why, just realistically, I live in Southern California. So some things that have been happening, I'll just tell you the reality of it. Like, you guys already know, I've talked about this countless times, how I've lived with housemates and, keeping my rent costs low, paying, I moved in paying $725. I I think that was, the deposit was $725 as well. I am now, my rent is $785, which is still lower than anybody's rent that I know. But the household, it's an old house, small bedrooms, no central air. Those things aren't really issues, but I've spoken multiple times about, that the people I've lived with for 3+ years, I hit my 3-year mark Easter of 2022. That was my 3-year mark because I moved in the year before the Rona. I moved in the year before the Rona, and on Easter Day. And I know Easter changes, but that's the day I moved in. So that's my move-in date. And I don't know if I've announced yet, but my official move-out date is June 15, 2022. So that's what's been going on lately. I had my last straw with the situation with the disruptive, to say the least, disruptive person. That's what I'll call her, the disruptive environment. It was impacting my sleep. It was impacting like how I can eat or how much food I can purchase and buy and store. And, at a certain point, just like even overhearing people arguing, overhearing just the noise levels and people all having different work, sleep, life schedules. And, not everybody's bad. It's just, just the dynamics in the household. It's just kind of like one person's kind of spoiling it for everybody. So, I mean, I've probably mentioned this before, but I put my foot down and was like, I sent the message to everybody because I wanted it in writing, and I kind of took a while to think it through. And I was like, I'm concerned more about the peace of myself and everyone else in this household and all of our physical and mental health. And we're all impacted by the fact that there's one person being disruptive. So can we all sit down, have a meeting together, drop a contract about, household rules and behaviors and how, let's put some ground rules and expectations in line. And anyone who can't follow those expectations or keep those expectations, they should be not able to live with everybody else, because the rest of us just want to work and have peace and quiet when we're not working. I mean, of course, it doesn't have to be complete silence. Nobody's saying you have to whisper and tiptoe around. Like, there's, you can hear the TV in the living room. If people are on the phone across the hall, I can hear that person. I can hear people when they're talking in the kitchen. I can hear people when they're, having the lawn mowed and all kind. I can hear people. It's fine. Everyone can hear kind of everybody else. We have super thin walls, wood floors. The doors don't really come all the way down to the ground. There's like a gap there too. So it's like, between headphones, earbuds, earplugs, sound machines, things like that. Just various different combinations of things that I've been able to use to kind of drown out noise. I feel like, okay, if I need it to be quiet, I can use something like that. But I feel like when there's somebody that's being so disruptive that they're overpowering, if I can hear you through my earplugs, if I'm being woken up while I have earplugs in, if I have a sound machine that's up loud, blocking out all the noise, I can't hear noise outside, I can't hear noise anywhere, and I can still hear this person. And then, the neighbors moved in, they've got like probably 3-4 kids or something. And like I mentioned, our walls are thin. So the wall that I share the wall with the new neighbors and one of the kids, and then they're stomping around wood floors again. They're not doing it on purpose, but kids run around the house and like slam doors when the windows are open, the doors kind of slam shut, and like I can hear all that. I can hear people talking, I can hear people, but they're living there. They have a decent schedule, so they're not up at all hours of the night making noise. They actually sleep early and wake up late, so like pretty much when I was there, they were sleeping before I was, and waking up after I was. So it's like, at least when I was sleeping, the neighbors weren't really waking me up or anything. I could tell they were there and awake and home. But other than that, it wasn't like disruptive or anything. Other than like 1 or 2 days when they were like doing repairs before the new people moved in. Maybe it was more than 1 or 2 days. Maybe it was about a week, but it wasn't like full hours. It was like after hours somebody was coming in repairing stuff. But that stopped. They moved in. They're not a problem. They're very nice people. Fast forward a little bit, the main person in charge of the house, I guess we'll call him the housing manager, decided he didn't want to abide by, or try to, help everyone have any form of boundaries, because mostly he feels bad. That was his explanation, is he felt too bad that person has their condition, so he didn't want to do anything to enforce anything that would make them not be able to really like do that. So he says, okay, I'll just keep telling her to quiet down. But I'm like, she's been there a year and a half now and nothing has worked. Like, we came up with the simplest solution that was, if you're going to be making all this noise, your car is right outside. She now has a second car. The owner of the place, he has a car that's like in the driveway, but it's like able to be like sat in. It's like in very good condition interior, Go outside so people don't hear you. She never has once gone outside while she's making noise. Even when people knock on the door, she wouldn't do it. And so I was like, well, if you're not going to change anything, I do not want to live there. So I said I'll be moving June 15th. And this was a little bit after the beginning of May. And a little bit, like most of April, you guys probably know, I was ending the snowboard season and I was out of town. The majority of April, I spent weeks out of town working remotely. And so that's the backstory for the people who have not heard it. That's kind of where I am now. But with all that, is coming a lot of other changes because I moved. I technically moved, like, I was, like, not in the house much since April. Since, like, Cesar Chavez weekend, which was actually the end of March. And then into April, I was hardly home. Like, I was there because, like, I wasn't, like, paying rent elsewhere. I was paying rent there, so I would come back there. All my stuff was there. But I was in hotels, like, multiple times, up visiting family in another city for, like, days, weeks at a time, up until it became May. And I was like, well, shoot, I need to go, because I usually write a check for rent. I was like, shoot, I need to go back and write a check, for the rent. And so that was the day that some episode happened with this person where, they were making noise when I was in the middle of work. It was one of their days off. It was a Thursday, and I was kindly knocking at the door, because they were knocking on my wall telling me that, this is after I had texted this person, courteously texted them about the laundry, saying I'm done doing my laundry. The laundry machine's all yours. I wasn't even going to text them at all. I was just going to, it's in the laundry's in the middle of the kitchen. Like, you can just walk out and see if it's available, right? So I put my stuff in. I usually set alarms and take it out on time. So they would have known that it was done if they would have just checked. But, and then, I texted them when it was done, like maybe 2 minutes after I had come back in my room and had my stuff folded and everything. I texted them and said, I'm done. Maybe 4 or 5 minutes after that, she starts knocking on my wall, like loud enough that I can hear, and like asking me about the laundry. And I come out of my room like kind of rapidly, and I was just like knocking on her door. And I was like, I texted you that I'm done, and it's not appropriate for you to be knocking on my walls. I could have been on the phone with a client in a serious situation. I've already told her about knocking on my doors and stuff, and when I put my laundry in earlier that morning, she was knocking on my door while I was working as well. So that's another thing, working remotely, that it was a little bit complex working with somebody who was working at a house with somebody who was so disruptive. But yeah, so that was one major disadvantage, was mostly just that. And the low stimulation and the kind of like, I wouldn't call it necessarily loneliness. Like, I would say there was some loneliness during the Rona, when like it wasn't easy to just like hang out with friends after, or make plans locally with friends, and like when people were a little more, like, people were getting sick here and there, left and right, and then it was like, I was, everyone was kind of like more isolated, and so I really wasn't interacting with too many people. And the people I live with, I don't interact with them anyways. It's more like a business relationship. Like, I pay the bills. You need me to clean something, I'll usually clean on time. But if you need me to clean something, we can work something out. If there's something that is bothering you because of me, just let me know. And nobody's ever really said anything. The only thing that ever came up on my end was, we kind of created a schedule, a bathroom cleaning schedule, and I kept to that schedule, so it wasn't a problem. And I kind of get easily annoyed with housemates because I feel like they have poor boundaries, and the guy who's in charge of the place has kind of poor boundaries, because he just is a lonely man, and he would call a lot and like to talk for like, I think once he talked to me for like almost 2.5 hours. On average, when he calls, it's 60 to 90 minutes just talking to him on the phone. And I usually tell him, just text me. So what I've had to do is like wait 24 to 48 hours until I call him back, because usually he doesn't need anything right away. And then when I talk to him when things are fresh, usually it takes too long for him to get to the point, or he just starts talking about his childhood, living in the Bronx and all that. Like, I just, I'm busy, on my free time. I'm not trying to talk 90 minutes to somebody on the phone nonetheless. And it's like, and we live in the same house. Like, sometimes we'll be like in different rooms, and he's calling me, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't get him off the phone. So I just would have to tell him that, but I don't know, he means well, but still, it's like, he doesn't pay attention to people's boundaries. He has like not a lot of respect for people's boundaries. And then even when I was telling him I'm moving, he was kind of like, oh, can you please stay? Like, not like making it a big scene, but he was like trying to get ways for me to like stay. But he wasn't really addressing the real issue. He was just like, well, I'll find a place for us without her, and then we'll all move, and it'll be similar rent. And I'm like, that doesn't sound likely, because we're paying lower than any other place in the whole city. Like, where else are you going to get a place where everyone's paying under $800? That would mean, for 3 people, paying under $800 for the rent to be like $2,400 a month for a 3-bedroom house, 3-bed, 1 to 2 bath house, or apartment. I mean, it would have to be under $2,400, and that doesn't really happen. I mean, like, the studios I was being offered were like $1,500 to $1,600. 1 bedrooms are usually near $2,000 for an apartment, and so if you're finding 3 bedrooms, it's going to be over $2,400. And he still hasn't found a place, and so and I was thinking too, I'm like, well, there's no guarantee that he's not going to move in another disruptive person, because she's not the only disruptive person that's ever lived there. She's just lived there the longest and has been the most disruptive. because she just doesn't learn or can't control herself. But I still don't see why that should have to be all of our issues. Like, I'm compassionate too, but I'm like, if I'm losing sleep, getting gray hair, just unhappy, not even like energy to like clean my own room, can't really like cook when I want to, don't have a lot of space in the freezer like at all because there's somebody who uses all the space, only have one shelf in the fridge, and I can't really just cook because it's like there's like 5 of us living in the house, so it's like, when are you gonna cook, like, so I would be forced to spend more money buying food and things like that, where it's just like, and it's not like I can have guests, I can't have company, it's like, it's not worth it at a certain point. So, long ass story short, I left. I haven't really been there hardly since those months I've mentioned, and now it's almost the end of May. It's Memorial Day weekend, and I'm still not there. I'll be back in town, and I have to go get my car because my car, I think the starter's out, and I'll have somebody look at that, and so I've got all that on my plate, but that's the background story, and I apologize because I feel like the last couple episodes I've posted, I've probably explained this story already exactly as I just did, and here's 20 minutes in and I'm still talking about this, but it's very impacting, that's why I keep mentioning it. Is like, it's not resolved yet because I haven't officially moved all my stuff out, especially because my car, I have a small car, I have an old Eclipse, like an old Eclipse, like it's gonna be 20 years old in June, old. But I take really good care of it, so it's like, the starter's the original starter, so of course, 19 years later it's not going to be working. It makes perfect sense. So I'm not like too worried. I have the money to pay for it. It's just I'm in another city. But because I work remotely, I can stay, with family in another house in another city, things like that. So that's another benefit of working remotely, is that I can go somewhere else when I need to at the blink of an eye, at the drop of a hat. I can leave and go somewhere else, and I've been saving some funds too, so I have money. It's not like I'm like completely broke. Like, even though my car stalled, I didn't want to stay at the house, and I didn't want to pay for that hotel again, so I came up to stay with my family, and I took the train and just left my car there because I was like, I'll deal with that later. And I was planning to wait until I need to be in town for something for work I have to do in person. So I'm gonna go into town January. I'm pushing this year, guys. I'm ready for it to be over. June 1 through 4 at least, I'll be in town. But I'm not gonna stay at the house. I'm gonna get a hotel. My stuff is still there, but I don't intend on staying there. And just because, like, why would I? Even though it's paid for through June 15th, I just don't want to stay there. Like, and that's kind of just me being me. Like, once I've tried to set a boundary and really spoken my mind, that's something that I do like about myself, is that I'm just like, look, this is my last straw, and I'm able to kind of like communicate on my own behalf. No hard feelings. I'm not like being mean to them, but it's like, hey, I'm out here for myself sometimes too. I gotta do what's good for me. I can't just be thinking about, they're gonna have a hard time finding a place for 2 people for $1,600, and one of them has a pet, and it's like, it's gonna be challenging for 2 of them to find a place together. And I'm just like, you know what, like, that's not my problem, because he has an option. He has an option to change that too. It's like, it's either her or me. Like, you got to choose her or me. You chose her, so bye. Like, I understand his reasoning. He feels bad. I feel for her too. I wish she didn't have to deal with her condition and her situation too, but I also wish that none of us had to deal with it. So, and she doesn't seem to be getting help. She doesn't seem to care, and the way she communicates with people is just very, just, she's paranoid, but also just not aware of her role in things. Like, she says things like when you ask her to please be quiet, there are two sides of her. So one side gets a little upset, and one side gets upset when you just communicate to the housing manager that she's being disruptive, and he goes and like tries to quiet her down. And she's like, why can't we be like adults and not just be, she feels like people are tattling on her. That's one thing. Another thing is, when that same side of her is kind of like, let me know if you need anything from me, if you need me to be quiet, is everything okay? There's one side of her that's kind of like that. And then there's the other side that's just like, who do you think you are? You don't own this place. This isn't your house. You're not the owner. So I don't have to be quiet, So there's that side of her too. And so those are kind of the responses we get related to her noise levels and things like that. And so, and you can't really quiet her. I mean, she's called the cops on this housing manager guy when I wasn't there, thank God. But she's called the cops on him. I'm like, he's a dark-skinned minority male, and, she's a young woman in her early 40s. It's like she could get him into some major trouble saying there was domestic violence or something like that. Like, there isn't, but it's like if she even said anything remotely like that, he can be taken away. And it's like, I don't want to be in an environment like that where it's like police showing up. Like, I wasn't there when it happened, but like once I heard it happened, I was like, I think I made the right decision. So yeah, it's a lot to deal with, but that's one negative of being, remote work, is if you're remote working from home and you have a home environment that's not ideal, then it's not going to be too ideal to be working remotely. And once it started impacting my work, I was like, okay, this is impacting my work. Like, I would literally start having to like call clients at different times a day, like just because I was like, like she might be like agitated right now. What if she starts like screaming and I can hear her through the walls and I'm on this important call? Or like, what if I'd be worrying, like, what if I'm in a meeting and she starts like yelling over there or like screaming at herself or whatever, or like banging things on the floor or whatever she does in there that makes so much noise. What if she starts, and when I started thinking like that, I was like, man, this is impacting my work, because I'm having to think about like other stuff versus just my job while I'm doing my job. It's like, it's one thing to be, having to think about this when you're not working, and then it's another thing to be like thinking about it when you're trying to sleep, and thinking about it when you wake up or try to have fun on the weekends, or when you call your family or friends and then she's in the background, or when you're doing this or that, or like, and then you're working and then she's in the background. And it's like, I think it definitely happened once earlier on in the Rona where, my housemates were arguing about her noise levels. This was at least a year ago. They were arguing about her noise levels in the middle of one of my meetings. And there's another time where they were arguing when I was on the phone with an interpreter, and I had to ask them to be quiet while I was like on a call. And so I'm like, it's happened, a couple times. I didn't get in trouble, but I was like, I could tell other people knew and could hear. And I asked the first time when it happened, I was like, yeah, did you guys like notice? Did you guys hear all the screaming in the background? And I remember I had my phone, my non-work phone, on record in the background while all that was happening. And then when I played back the recording, I was like, oh shoot, that they were really being loud, like, because our walls are thin and like everything's wood floors, and like they're in the hallway like yelling like one door down. So it's like, yeah, you can hear it all. And it was my turn presenting, and I was the one talking, so I couldn't even like mute myself because I was like talking during the meeting. So it's like during my time to talk, lo and behold, they're gonna be fighting. And so stuff like that. But roommates fight, housemates fight, whatever. But it's like, it's not the first time it happened. It's like now we're like on a third time where somebody's knocking on my wall. So it's like, okay, like we gotta stop this. And she just does whatever she wants. She doesn't have control. So I said bye. I said bye before I'm officially out, but I basically said my goodbyes in like at like the end of March. I was already totally sick of it, but I was like, well, at least there's snowboard season, so I'm out of the house anyway. So like once I started coming back earlier in May, I was like, well, now I still have to deal with this. And then I was like, I realized too when I was out of the house, I'm sleeping so much, that house, I'm sleeping so much better. And then I started realizing like, oh, when I have to go back, like I'm kind of dreading it. So there was all that. And then, so 10 minutes ago, I said I was going to fast forward to now. And then I still haven't. But fast forward to now, all I have left to do is move my stuff out into my family's place and like get my car fixed, and get that not parked outside of that house, and closer to where I am. So I made a nice to-do list, and I was like, all the stuff I have to get done. Things like, the steps I'm going to need to take for, basically I'm going to eventually move back to that city because I love all my friends there, and all my social circle, and I want to be around them. I do want another remote job, or at least mostly remote, especially because upcoming is going to be a snowboard season again, like starting as early as November 2022. I didn't use my Icon Pass, so I can defer it to this coming season, the 2022-2023 season. I'm excited about that. So I didn't defer it yet. I mean, I have to defer it. So yeah, I'm basically working on getting myself situated. I was giving myself a couple weeks or so to kind of like settle in. And now that I have a 3-day weekend, it's really nice. And I'm like, I spent most of today like sitting around trying to edit my snowboard video, and then my computer deleted my edits twice, and so I'm like, you know what, let me just take a break. And I was just feeling kind of like not low, but just kind of like blah, like just kind of like, I need some to create some kind of oomph to my day. Yesterday I went to the rock gym, had a great time with a friend of mine. Got some good footage, so I was happy about that. I really like getting footage, like sport and like action footage. That's kind of something I really enjoy doing. So on my to-do list, other than fixing the car and moving my stuff, and some stuff like hang out with friends and like concerts in August and different stuff like that, like Pride season happening in June coming up soon, and the Pride festivals I'm going to, trying to head up this Tupac exhibit. Like I've got plans and stuff, but I'm also saving money. Like I'm trying not to, like, at least I know I'm saving at least $785 a month, more than that, actually, if I count the fact that I don't have to buy groceries out or buy takeout food every day, or almost every day. Now I did spend some money getting my dad's old 2001 Oldsmobile Aurora fixed. It was like a little less than $500 to get 2 brand new tires and an alignment. I filled the tank for like $50 something because the gas gauge is broken, so I don't even know how much gas is in it. I was lucky to get gas under $6 because everywhere in LA gas is like over $6 almost everywhere. Now this car doesn't drive very fast. When I was taking it to the rock gym yesterday, I was like, on the highway streets, I was like, I don't even know if I can really push 40, 45. It started to feel a little not ideal. Driving like a little under 40, so meaning I can't really take it on the freeway. But it's fixed, and so I don't have to have a rental car, which would cost me a fortune. They're what, like the ones that I saw last time were about 80 a day because they were like SUVs. You can get them in like the $30-$40 range, but it's like it's still per day. That would have already added up. So economically, it made more sense to get this car fixed. And now it's fixed, my parents offered to pay half of it, but I was like, let me just pay it. I have the money, let me pay it. I'm not gonna like put them out. They're doing me a solid too, so I'm like, well, I'm not trying to like take more that, like, if I needed that extra support for them to pitch in, I wouldn't be like no, but I mean, because I don't like need it and I could afford it, I'm like, cool, thanks. Let me see what else. So, yeah, I'm going to have to get my starter repaired. I'm pretty sure it's the starter, but the neighbor is a mechanic. He's going to do a diagnostic for me for free, hopefully on June 1st when I get there. If not June 1st, I've talked to the closest mechanic, and they take a day to look at it and then diagnose things, and then he would tell me how long it's going to take and how much it would estimate to repair that issue. I mean, it has other issues. There's some fuse issues impacting the power door locks, the lights interior, like the those lights on the mirror, the those visor mirrors, and the lights on the and the radio and the CD player, like all the whole unit. Is that all? I think that's all. Yeah, and then the key doesn't work with the locks right now because they're just not working. And when the car is kind of like off, I can't really do the windows. Like before, when you took the key out, you had a couple seconds, you could still roll the windows up or down. So there's that. And then, yeah, a bunch of car stuff, guys, I was considering selling the car, but right now I have to put the title in my name. I have to get it smogged and get the tags by June 10th, I believe. I'm planning to get everything by June 4th, but we'll see if I can do it by June 4th. I mean, I can always stay in San Diego longer just to get things fixed if I know exactly how long it's supposed to take, but I don't want to. I mean, I just want my stuff back. I updated my AAA, so now I have like 100-mile coverage instead of the 6-7 mile coverage, because I figured if they can't fix it or whatever, at least I can get the car towed back. So, and because I'm driving the other old car too, at least it's like now at least I have coverage. Consider, because now I won't have to pay for like towing and stuff. So that's good. But that starts on June 1st, and that's not, it's on Wednesday, coming up Wednesday after this long weekend. So I should be good. And even if not, I'm only really driving this old car around town to like meet my friend who's in town from the Coast Guards. She's on leave till the 3rd, but I won't be able to see her past the 31st. So I'm probably gonna see her this weekend or early next week before I leave on Wednesday. And so other things on my to-do list that might actually be of more interest to you guys. So, raising my credit is one thing, and I'm going to talk more about that, but, I've been watching a lot of content about how to improve credit. And so you guys probably notice, I don't do a lot of like renting stuff, getting stuff on credit. All this stuff is like, if I don't have that money in the bank, I'm not paying for it. So car repairs, getting a new car to make car payments, all this other stuff is like, I'm not paying $500 a month car payments. I've paid probably 500 on this current car. But that's kind of a solid for my folks too. And then I've paid, like, I've paid on, so that was on my car. I've paid on this Aurora. My car's paid off, so I don't make payments on it. This Aurora is paid off, so, and unless it's repairs and gas and like, stuff like that, like, and registration, I pay monthly insurance through Geico, and it's cheap. I don't know the exact amount, but it's probably about $49, somewhere around there. Like I mentioned, AAA is like an annual fee. And so, yeah, my transportation fees tend to be pretty low compared to a lot of people. I keep them low, especially because I drive a lot and gas is a fortune. And so I've been trying to drive way less, which is where a lot of my savings is coming from, is because, I calculated that even before, when I was going to and from work, if I was driving like 40-mile round trip a day, about 20 miles one way to work or from work, that would have been about 30 $200 to $300 a month. $200 to $300 a month just on gas. And that's just work. That's not counting like going out on weekends, or if I take an Uber here or there and all this kind of stuff. That's just transportation to and from work. $200 to $300 just from going to work 5 times a week. 5 days a week. Monday through Friday. That's outrageous. And then, like I mentioned, I have a high food expense. When I was buying food, almost every day. Like, some days I would give myself like $10 or $15 a day to buy food, but then it's like you eventually start trading off like healthy foods for less healthy food just because it's cheap. Like, you can eat instant ramen and Progresso soups and that kind of stuff, but it's like the sodium is super high. It's not really good fresh food. On occasion, it was like, yeah, if I'm really trying to save money, like, the only reason I would really eat that stuff is like either if I'm like stoned and have the munchies and just crave like something junk food like that, or if I just like am in a rush or something, or if it's like, okay, like I'll save a few bucks, like let me save like 30, 40, 50 bucks real quick in like a week. I'll just eat like 3-4 days of just like really low quality food for like a couple bucks each meal, and instead of spending like about $15 a day, I'm spending like $5 a day on my food. It's like, after the end of a work week, you've got $50 right there. So it's like, I'm not really into trading off health for like financial stuff, but that's one way to do it, honestly. Or just not going anywhere and not paying the high gas prices. And working remote helps me to not have to go anywhere, really. So yeah, so other things on my to-do list, like when it comes to credit building, so I set up this card called from the self.inc site, self.inc. I'm testing out a lot of these cards and websites and things, and I'm gonna review it once I know more. But what it says is that, what I've studied about is pretty much, and this is just what people are saying. I can't verify for myself. I haven't tried it. One person was saying that they got the card and their score did go down, and somebody else was saying that the reason that person's score went down is probably because the credit bureaus were getting the report that, there's a new line of credit open, and sometimes opening a new line of credit, because it's more credit utilization, it can make your score go down potentially. I haven't experienced that yet, but I don't really know if I will. I might not know for a few weeks. Does it cost money? Yes, it's about, I can't remember how much it costs, but it's not a high fee a month. And let me see. I never set up my another thing about that self.inc. It's called Self. Another thing about it, other than the one person saying, I don't know if it's one person or if this is a theme, but yeah, the one person that I read reviews about was saying that their score got decreased when they opened it. Mine didn't, but yeah, that was the explanation that they gave, like I mentioned. And then another person was saying that if you pay early, like pay 2 weeks early, because there's a due date. So right now, my current due dates are set for the 25th of every month. So if I pay about 14 days early, that is supposed to be something that helps. And I think I set it so that my payments are going to be $48 a month. But I actually plan to pay like $100 a month. I could pay it all, honestly, but I just plan to just pay it all back quick. So I'd rather just pay it off fast. Because I can, like, I have the funds to do it. But I'm just, lucky and grateful that right now, with everything going on, I'm not like completely in the hole. I think it's always good to have access to an emergency fund. I know people usually say $1,000 emergency fund, but in all honesty, I'm thinking that for most people, you want to think about it. It might cost more than that. I'd have to do the math, but I'd say, how much would it cost if you had to use a hotel for like 4 or 5 days? That's usually about $400 or $500. So you'd need that plus the deposit that might be, say, $100. That's like maybe $500-$600. You might need to get car repairs. So if you don't have towing through AAA or something like that, you want to have at least, tow trucks can be like $60, $120, as like kind of like a flat rate. I don't know how it is now, if there's been inflation on that too, but from what I recall, 60 for like the classic tow trucks, or like about 120 for the flatbed tow trucks. And that's if you're not going too far. And then they'll charge you, I guess, however much per mile after that. The most I ever paid for a tow truck was from Ramona to San Diego, when my car stalled when the alternator went out. So I think that was, I want to say it was over $200 for that tow. So you'd need somewhere between 60 and probably $200 for towing if you don't already have like AAA. And AAA, just for the basic one, I think is about $60 a year. So if you've never had AAA, you might, especially if you have an old car, you might as well get you might as well just pay the $60, because that already covers one tow. But then you're good for like, I think like 7 or so services where they come out to you. So that could mean like if you need them to bring you a battery or charge your battery, or tow your car or fix a flat tire. Now, mind you, if you don't have a donut or a spare with you, they're going to charge you for the price of the tire, but they can bring you one. They can also bring you a battery, but they would charge you for that battery and probably, I don't know if they charge you labor too, but they would charge you the price of a battery. So unless they're changing your tire to like your own spare or your own donut, or just like jump starting you or quick starting your car battery, if it has enough if it can be started that way, just to get you to a place to get a battery or something like that. Like, those chargers don't last eternally. Like, just because you get a jump start or a quick start doesn't mean you can still just keep driving the car forever. That you might likely need to get a new battery. They can usually tell you that. And I think lockouts as well. They cover lockouts as well if you lock your keys in the car. I think they can do a replication key, but I think you have to pay for that. I don't know if it's AAA that does that, but I was with a friend once that had to get that, and I think that's what they did. But I cannot recall. And then, so that was the majority of the stuff going on. And then, that's the majority of things I would say, but yeah, for a car, for like transportation related emergencies, AAA kind of makes more sense economically because you're paying the amount that you would be paying anyways, but you get about 6 or 7 services per year, versus calling a truck once that you're still going to pay that same price, right? So how much does a locksmith cost to come out to you? It usually costs like at least like $40-$50, sometimes like $100. And AAA is less than $100 a year, so you might as well just get AAA if you don't have it. And let's see what else. Yeah, so let's assume you're paying $60. And when you get AAA, you can't just, oh, my battery's dead, let me get AAA. When you get AAA, you have to wait a bit to use it usually. You can't always use it just like same day. I mean, I don't know if it's always like that, but I think one of the times I got AAA, because I was like, let me get AAA, and I'm using this car that's like old, and I felt like weird about it. But I was like, let me just get AAA, because I didn't have it during that year. And I remember I was like, let me just get AAA, and I got AAA and started making this 100-mile drive, and tire blew out on the freeway. I had to pull over to the side, and then AAA came, and then I got it towed, and I think I got towed back to my house, and then I think I had to call them again the next day to get them towed to a place for repairs. I think that's what happened, but I can't really remember, but I think that's what happened. So yeah. And so yeah, we're already talking like if you're thinking about common types of emergencies, like if you need to move, if you're living with people that you just if you're living in a spot where you just can't live or can't be, you might want to consider up to 5 days that you can't be there and paying about $100 each day to not be there. And let's say if the hotel security deposit is $100, that's already $600. Let's say if you need a car tow, let's say $60, just put that in there. You're already having like $660 right there. If you're thinking about having to be out of the house for about 5 days for whatever reason, like if you have like some problem with your ceiling leaking, or like your plumbing is totally backed up, or whatever, or if you just have wild roommates, you might have, or like a family issue kind of thing. um, you might just need a place to be. And then there's other kind of emergencies that happen too. But I feel like the common ones that, people can't pay for right away is like transportation related things and housing or residential related things. Um, so that's already like $660 or so. Um, and you know, there's other stuff like if you think about like food or like refrigeration repairs or whatever, washer dryer repairs, if you might need a new washer dryer, a new fridge, like there's certain stuff you can't really go without for like way too long before it's going to become a total inconvenience. Like if you need a brand new refrigerator, you're probably going to end up having to get new food as well. And then, between like the getting rid of the old fridge, paying someone to come get it, getting a new fridge, getting new food, getting the new fridge delivered, stuff like that. You're going to need quite a chunk of change for these types of emergencies that could come up. And you could think of any type of emergency that could come up. I would say over $1,000, but if you have at least 1,000, I would say it's good to have at least enough for the next paycheck to come. 2 weeks worth of money, however much you spend in 2 weeks or a month, even 2 to 4 weeks worth of money. To me, that sounds a little more likely, because then if you get, even if you lose your job unfortunately or something, at least you have a date when you have enough money till your last pay date, or like things like that. Like I'd say it makes more sense to think towards the next paycheck, because then you'd have more money to work with then too, because you have expenses too that are going to come up. So it's like if you already have your account at $0 and then an emergency comes up, yeah, you might have $1,000 on the side, but then like you're still going to have expenses coming up throughout the month. If you have like routine expenses, like you might still have your rent coming up, so you might have to get whatever it is emergency taken care of, as well as your ongoing expenses. And so I would say it kind of makes more sense to almost have more than $1,000, or at least 2 to 4 weeks worth of money, depending how often you get paid. So at least you kind of buy yourself like a month to figure out the issue. And then, yeah, so... And then, these types of things help people to not have to use credit and then not being able to repay it. And same thing with loans. I'd say you always want to be in a position where you can get an immediate loan, even though I don't think it's a good idea to get those loans, those payday loans and stuff, because you end up paying back a whole lot more than it's worth to pay. It doesn't make sense to really get them. But it's basically like if somebody was telling you like, hey, let me borrow I'll let you borrow $1,000 and you can pay me back like $1,500 or like $1,600 or $1,700 or like $2,000. It's like, that's a lot of extra money. And they're basically ripping you off once or twice a month. Versus if you could actually pay it all back. But that's usually what people think. I'll just get the money and I'll pay it all back. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. Those kind of loans can screw up people's scores, but I don't know if paying them back actually improves the score. So that's something to look into. And then, I think people know that I've had that card called Extra. I started talking about it before it even got popular. And there were like no reviews out on it when I first, got it, and people were just like not really telling full information, almost as if they had never even actually used it. And so I put out a review on one of my YouTube channels. I can't remember which channel, but I put out a review on it and it got like over 1,000 views. I didn't even know. So that is something I want to create a lot more content about, is that card. and I'm gonna make another review about it, but it's a good card in my opinion. There are some tricks about it. But I've been using it over a year now. I don't use it all the time, but I've been using it over a year now. Um, I haven't gone back to any like classic credit cards or anything like that. Um, but yeah. So, and I don't think I have pending loans other than student loans, like nothing like immediate. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how that looks. Um, as far as my to-do list, my but I started thinking about certain things that made me start this recording, and the where I'm at now, it's not that I can't move. It's just that with the climate of things, I can't really justify paying $1,500 to $1,600 for a studio. I'm sorry, I can't. And then the competition for the other ones, it was like I'm losing money on application fees because I'm paying like application fees for all these places, but anything under 1,500, everybody's applying to like the $1,300, $1,400 ones. They say that they get like 30 people coming in. They get like 30, I think they were telling me they get about 30 people each weekend, and then each weekend day. So say if a place starts showing today, Saturday, they get about, every hour or so, they have like 5 or 6 people coming in for viewings. And then at the end of that day, the next day, Sunday, they have about 5 or 6 people coming in for viewings. And then they basically find somebody that way. So 5 or 6 people coming in, and then they usually find somebody by the first weekend. And if you think all the application fees they've accepted, right? So this is for people qualified, people who don't qualify, for so many different types of people. And so this is what they've been doing. And, that's how the market looks out here. But I'm kind of running into a situation where my current pay rate, my take home, isn't a third of $1,600. My take home pay from my main job is not, let me see, what's that number? That would mean I would be needing to make $4,800 a month, or about $57,600 a year. That's after all the deductions and taxes and stuff. So you're actually needing to make more than $57,000 a year, which I don't, for my main job. And so, which is fine. I make a decent amount of money, but, living in Southern California, taxes are super high too. So we get taxed. We get a lot of our paycheck deducted. I have retirement that gets, deducted. I have all kinds of deductions. And we got barely a raise, and we get bonuses every 3 months. And these bonuses are taxed. So we only get about 81% of our bonus. We don't get 100% of it. We get 81%. So we don't get about 81% of our actual income. That's about what gets taken from us. And so that's a problem where we live, for sure. But we don't get that income. all to us. We have to portion it out where we may. Um, yeah, and I'm not making 57.6 take home. So at the moment, I'm like, okay, it's nice to work remote. Let me not pay rent for a bit, save a lot of money. But I'm also, after I, move all my stuff and get my car fixed and see if I sell it or what, I'm going to actually need to, consider, new job options. Would likely go into web development. There's a company that is remote therapy type company I could work for that pretty much told me that they'd be interested in hiring me. I interviewed with them. I don't know, maybe like a year ago. I don't know, but I interviewed with them before, and they liked me. And my friend referred me, and I didn't accept the position because they didn't have benefits and they don't take out taxes. And it was like, okay, it seemed like it was going to be a lot of money, but then it's more than what I get now, but it would have been less. And then like no shows, they charge you a little bit for no shows. I think it was like $6 or $12 they charge you. So you could potentially not always be making the same pay rate. So I didn't want that. That seemed a little uncomfortable to try to, balance all these other new ways of doing things when I'm like already struggling to have the energy to balance all this stuff whenever, there's some kind of urgent thing that comes up. The last thing I want to be thinking about is like tax season and all this and that. Come to taxes. I still haven't gotten my refund yet, but I'm actually getting a freaking refund this year, which is like strange. I haven't gotten a tax refund since, I honestly don't know when, since since before grad school. I don't know. I don't know since when, honestly. That I don't remember. I want to say maybe 2005. Sometime after 2005. I used to get, because that's mostly when I started working at like small jobs and stuff. And it was I was getting paid regularly and everything, and pretty much always had full-time jobs and full-time work or working towards it since then. I had a couple years before grad school where I was like taking the GRE, studying for the GRE, so I was tutoring as work and working at a school and everything. Like I think I had like 3 or 4 little, and I was doing like freelance like web design and stuff like. But, I'm considering going into web development. I'm researching it out. I love doing remote work because it has its benefits. I just prefer to do it in my own place without roommates or housemates and things like that. Even though, living with people can be nice, it's just, it has to be the right people. And I think one of the mistakes I made was trying to, go for a place that was low cost. Because I'm not saying that people who can't afford things have like bad personalities or anything like that. Like there's nothing wrong with not having a lot of money, not having a lot of income. I don't, I would, I feel for people in poverty, and I don't want people to have to be in poverty and to have those experiences. And it doesn't mean that they have a bad personality, but there are people who, on the other hand, can't afford things for a certain reason because of conditions that they have that aren't managed, or traits that they have where it's like, they spend too much, or they can't control their spending, or they lie about stuff, or they can't hold down jobs. And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times when people can't hold down work, there might be some component of their personality contributing to that too. Now, a lot of us have had bad shit bosses that were sucky people. I've had those too. And so I wouldn't say that, like, oh, just because, I was getting like weird reviews or bad reviews from certain bosses, that it was my fault. I knew on my end it wasn't all on me, and those kind of situations impacted my mental health and balance, outside of work, to be able to kind of feel more relaxed and rested. And then my work performance was suffering, and then again, the boss would be like coming down on me because they wanted perfection in certain things, and just because of the way that their attitude was, it was just too stressful to be around that. So there's that. And then I'm thinking of, I'm considering this new job route, because the company I'm working for, I found out that when I left my previous site, going on 2 years now. I think I'm just hitting my 2-year anniversary at this job now, this week. Because it was like about the 25th of May that I had started a new job, like during the Rona, 2020 May 25th or so. So now we're past that date. So I've hit my 2-year anniversary, and originally the boss did lie and say we were going to be getting $50 an hour, which we don't. She totally gaslighted me. So that's how I started this job. But I also wasn't, very assertive about it, because it's awkward for me to talk about money. And so when I noticed that the contract said how much I was going to be getting paid, I was like, this is significantly less than she said. Mind you, she said it when she was telling me the job description. She said it again before that. Again, she said it during the interview. I don't have any proof that she said this, other than that I texted and talked to multiple friends and family members of mine. But also I was like, that doesn't sound right, because I'll believe it when I see it. So maybe she was talking about an annual rate and not an hourly rate. I don't know. But she was like, yeah, you're going to get $50 an hour. And I was like, that doesn't sound right, because I don't even think my bosses at that time were making that much money. I'm pretty sure they weren't. And so even my leads, nobody was making that much money, and I'm not licensed. And so I'm like, how the heck would I be making that much money? So I don't think so. And then the contract came around, and I asked her, I was like, I emailed her, and I was like, this contract doesn't look like what you said, And she's like, just sign it, send it over, like whatever. Like she was, and then I talked to someone else about it too, that was in the accurate department, and was like, you need to take that up with her. And she was kind of like, this is, just protocol. We have to do it this way, like whatever. And I this like, I shouldn't have signed it. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, I was like, I've worked with this lady for this lady for technically like 6 years? 6 years? I don't know how long I've worked for her. 6 years, maybe? That I've known her, worked under her at different points in time. I know what she kind of thinks about me just because of how she talks. She considers me a pushover. She thinks I'm too nice and like people, and that I'm too passive about things. And then there have been times at work where she kind of like saw me doing something and assumed I was doing something like time wasting, and was kind of like, oh, if you need something to do, I have work for you to do. And then my other boss was like, well, I asked her to review these documents, because I was sitting there like reading paperwork, and usually we're on our computers typing, or like on the phones, or like in sessions and stuff. And so when she saw me, this was years ago, when she saw me, she kind of noticed how I was. She kind of noticed that I kind of started noticing, oh, she thinks I'm not working hard, or that I'm not. And she kind of used, like, there was once where there was some kind of form that the client signed, but I didn't really put it in the chart. I had it in my desk, but it wasn't in the chart. And I opened a client plan, and the system had a glitch in it where if you went to a certain tab, it would tell you in red what's due, like what you haven't saved in the system, what hasn't been final approved. And then it showed you on the other side what was final approved. And so I was using that tab to show me what I would have coming due. And then, I would check it every day. And so, after a while, because we have all these like 30-day deadlines for stuff. And so I would use that as my own tracking system. And I thought that paper had been, I thought that assessment in the chart was done because on that tab, it said it was final approved, finished on a certain date, but it wasn't. And so we'd gone on providing services to this person for multiple months with that document still being open. And I did, like, we would do so many of these documents. There's no way you can keep track. Like, we would do like hundreds of them, so it's like, you had to have some kind of tracking system, and I trusted in our software. So I was like, okay. And she kind of used like an intimidation tactic, saying like, oh, you better have that signed page or whatever. And then like, I did. But just the way she was like saying it was like, what? Like, I was just kind of like, why is she coming at me like this? Like, all she needs to do is say, hey, this hasn't been final approved. This should have been final approved months ago. Why isn't it done? Because one of the leads from another department kind of was working with the same client and told the boss about it. And then I came back and I was like, here's the form. And I was using this tracking system and it said it was done. And so I just assumed it was done and moved on. And then she sent a message to everybody, like, don't use this tracking system because it's wrong or whatever. And, but yeah, I was just like, what the heck? She was kind of a bitch. She still kind of is, honestly. And we all just kind of know that. But I say all that to say that, like, I know that it's possible to have a bad boss. So just because someone's having issues at work doesn't necessarily mean that it's their own fault. Like, sometimes, if you have a fast-paced job, you're making the decisions that you think are the best decisions, and things aren't always going to be perfect. Sometimes you're either going to have to choose between quality or speed. And so you kind of sometimes can't do both. It's like, if you're working too fast, the quality is going to suffer. Or you can have really good quality, but then you can't get as much done because you have to work slower to have better quality. And so this job was that type of job where it's like fast-paced, low quality paperwork. But then for me, I was like, I'd rather have lower quality paperwork and good quality client interactions and sessions, because that's what needed to be done. But I feel like that boss preferred to have high quality paperwork and screw the clients, spend less time with them if you need to get your paperwork done, and brush them off, blow them off, get this stuff in, because she cared more about the money than the actual client's well-being. And I wasn't so slow to a point where it was like problematic, but like she just kind of had her ideas about me and still kind of does. So I took this job for what it was, took advantage of the fact that it's easier, money saving. I can do what I want, be where I want, do whatever I want when I feel like it, kind of buy myself more freedom. But now it's at a point where it's like, well, I'm not getting paid a third of what a studio apartment even costs, and I'm not really trying to go back to roommates, so I'm likely going to have to get another job, a different job, not an additional job, but we'll see. I'm not 100% sold on web development, but it's something that I have more background in, not professionally, but more like on a freelance level. I know more about it. It would be less of a learning curve for me because I'm more well versed in that type of thing. And like I said, I'm just trying to kind of get mine. Sometimes I'm not really trying to like sit around with all these like people who are trying to gaslight or pay less, and they're at the top, so of course they're making more money. But yeah, the previous site that I used to work at, I found there's only going to be one therapist, and the clients that I put on the wait list May of 2020, a lot of them are still on the freaking wait list. And I'm like, and then I found out most of the behavioral health sites are like that. Not the current branch I'm at, because we're a different type of site, but the other branches that are just the classic behavioral health sites, they're like that. So I feel like I got out in time. A lot of the contracts are getting renewed in July, so we'll see what happens. If they might be getting higher pay, I would have an opportunity to go back to that job, which is not remote, but it would pay more. I prefer that site, but also it's too fast paced, and I think they probably give me like too many clients, too much high risk, too much everything. Like, I already had a hard time setting boundaries with them in the first place. All of us did. We even got like upper management involved, and they weren't supportive. And now it's at a point where like all the staff is pretty much quit because they don't want to get like, we were making $18 an hour. Some people were getting like 19, and leads weren't even getting 20. And so in this current climate, when everybody had a master's degree too, and still does at this point, it's like you can't really afford to really be getting paid $18 an hour. So I did it to kind of get my foot in the door other places, but now at this point it's become more of a burden than a helpful thing. But still, having work is a blessing, having experience is a blessing, building a career portfolio is a blessing. But it's like something's gonna have to change. A lot of things are gonna have to change. So I'm gonna break these topics down. It's kind of just a general overview of kind of what's going on with me, why I haven't been posting. I'm not too bogged down. I'm just taking things slowly. I'm not wearing myself thin. Taking breaks when I need to. I'm having days, kind of more free days where I'm not really doing a lot of creative work, recording, researching. Like I said, I stopped kind of tuning into kind of what's going on with the stock market, what's going on with pretty much anything right now with the recession and all this kind of stuff. I've stopped mostly listening to the majority of it, and so I do want to kind of pick up on that, but for now I've kind of just gotten out of the loop just so I can focus on my own stuff. And when I wake up, I've been focusing more on like topics of like spirituality and like the universe. So anything from like like new age stuff to like I listen to like Ashir, like I tune in to it most mornings and listen to like the portion of Talmud, or like I'll tune in to like, I haven't really tuned into sermons for a while, but different like speakers like Osho or like Sadhguru, or I listen to Dolores Cannon sometimes, just kind of people like that, Eckhart Tolle, like just those types of people, Alan Watts, like those types of people, that type of content, and a whole lot more. But just that's kind of the type of stuff that's up my alley, from like traditional religious stuff to like the kind of more esoteric type of thinking. I kind of like a range of that kind of stuff. It just kind of, I gravitate towards it. It appeals to me, so I listen to it because I like it. But yeah, that's my update. and I'll be reporting on it more. I've got some stuff I want to record about, that extra debit card for credit building. I want to record some more because I've had it for like a year now. I want to record some more about mostly that. And I'm gonna get back into the updates on finance and the recession and things like that, and then I'll see if there's anything worth looking into, seem like things that people seem like they're interested in, and see if I can kind of chime in about any of it. Mostly I've been kind of back in my video editing, video recording, music recording, kind of making some beats, on some music software, and kind of relearning it a little bit, a little guitar playing, a little keyboard playing, just music, mostly just music. Haven't been doing a lot of recording or like podcast recording or writing, blogging, things like that. So I'll probably do some of that tonight. But yeah, I think it's probably safe to say that, with the climate of things changing, a lot's changing for me. I'm going to keep people posted about this journey I'm on, but, until June 15th, there's a lot that's kind of just going to be up in the air, because I got to at least move and get my car back in working order, or figure out if I'm selling it or whatever. But I feel like right now isn't a good time to sell it. I thought I was going to sell it, and now I'm just kind of like, I was debating, because I was like, I feel like I'm like attached. Like, I try not to get too attached to like possessions, and I was like, the reason I'm not selling it is because I'm attached to the possession, and so I'm going to sell it. And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, if I sell it, I still need another car. And it's in better working condition than the Aurora I'm driving, for sure. So I was like, well, I'm still going to need another car. So even if I sell it, I'm still going to need to buy something. And with the market as it is for cars, there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to buy something better. And I know this car very well. The engine's been rebuilt. The alternator's new. The starter's about to be new. The battery's new. New as in like from October, the alternator and battery. Tires are relatively new. I think. I don't remember how old the tires are. I'm about to get the registration renewed. Insurance is good. So I don't really know. And I don't want to make payments. I'm not going to get a car to make payments on. I just refuse to be making $500 payments on something for years, because that's going to cut into my money too. And also, since I work remotely, it's not like I drive like so much. And so that's kind of what's going on, kind of the updates I've got for now. Hopefully this is helpful to someone out there. Hopefully you guys find it entertaining, helpful, useful information, at least for now. If there's stuff that I can post more about credit, I think that's kind of the direction I'm going to go in, because that seems to be what people want to hear about. And I want to provide value for people who need that. And most of it I'm talking about is always going to be from my own personal experiences or what I've read about other people saying or doing. And I'll specifically state that as well. I need to start taking better notes, though, on my different journeys and experiences with these things, because I don't really have like timestamp dates for the stuff that I'm doing. But yeah. yeah, guys, keep your heads up out there. And I'm going to post more soon. And thanks for listening.